Hi everyone, it's Phil here from Ashland Leather. I have a lot of really cool custom wallets coming from our little custom shop today. Let's give you a preview of what's in the video today. I have a Fat Herbie in raw denim shell Cordovan with raw natural shell Cordovan. There's a Fat Herbie in natural shell Cordovan and intense blue shell Cordovan. Another custom Fat Herbie, color 8 marbled shell Cordovan with some ultraviolet and hand stitching. A tumbled Verdigris Fat Herbie, a tumbled Verdigris Bugs Moran, one of our tall Tonys in a nice color combination of whiskey, ultraviolet, color 4, amaretto, and intense blue. And last up, I had a repair wallet that's got a nice bit of patina on it that I'd like to show you. This one's in Garnet shell Cordovan. All right, up first, let's take a look at these two wallets together because I thought these two are almost like brothers. It's sort of a really cool inverted color scheme here on these two Fat Herbies. Let's look at the first one here. This one is raw denim shell Cordovan on top of a raw natural shell Cordovan. And the raw denim is that new version of the raw shell that Horween has been making. It's the same leather as the top here, this raw shell, but with an added denim stain, and that's the color that they're calling this. It's more of a like vivid aqua blue when compared to the intense blue. It's a little lighter in color, but it also, because it's raw, does not have any of that bright shiny luster that most of the shells have. Take a look at the inside of this one, and this is incredible. On the inside here, more of that raw denim shell Cordovan, and I like the sleekness of this. There's something about the matte finish of the raw shells that are very intriguing to me when you compare it to the brightness of a normal shell. I don't know if it's just because I'm used to seeing the normal shells, the brightness of that mirror-like shine on a regular piece of shell Cordovan, but there's something a little bit more modern looking about the sort of matte finish, the subtle sheen of this raw shell Cordovan. On this particular piece, we've got a couple of additional customizations. You can see the stitching is thicker, and that's a hand stitch that we offer for a bit of an upcharge, and an additional upcharge is for these hidden card slots. So underneath our regular card slots, we stitch an additional divider. So underneath here, you can fit a bit of larger stuff in addition to the normal 2 slots on top. This piece is really, really cool. I love the blue and natural combination with the cream stitch as well. And take a look at this guy. I feel like the outside of this is a really great complement to that first wallet we just looked at. This one is sort of the inverse. We've got natural shell Cordovan on top of intense blue shell. And you might be able to see the difference in sheen here from the raw shells here that are a little bit more dull compared to the normal shells, which are much more bright and polished. But let's take a closer look at this guy. So that natural shell Cordovan on the back here, this is incredible. And I like this that this customer chose a hand stitch in brown. I think this goes really well with the natural and the blue. That's just a really great look on the outside of this wallet. Take a look at the inside as well. We have more of that combination. And I like this sort of mirrored, inverted look on the left and right, where we have intense blue shell on top of a natural reverse piece here. And then the left, it's natural reverse with the intense blue on the left. And I think this is not only great looking, but it has a functionality that I find to be very useful. I like when I have at least one interior card slot to be reversed. And that's because I like the way that the reverse wears in on the inside of a wallet a little bit better than shell on shell. I just find it to be a little bit more easily polished once it's been worn in a bit. And on top of that, this natural and blue together, man, that is cool. I think these two first wallets here are some of my favorite Herbies that I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of Herbies at this point. All right, here's another really incredible wallet. This is a Fat Herbie in color 8 marbled shell Cordovan. And take a look at that really great piece of color 8 marbled shell. I love when the color ranges in the marbled shells from that lighter sort of natural color underneath on these horizontal striations, and they sort of alternate between that natural color and a burgundy shade. In some spots it's a little lighter, some spots it's a little darker, and all that natural variation I just find very compelling. On the outside of this wallet, you might also notice there's another hand stitch on this one, and that is a red thread. I think that looks really great. was actually surprised at how well the red thread goes with the color 8 on the outside. Take a look at the inside here. This is where we get really funky. On the inside, we've got an ultraviolet reverse piece on the left with a really great Horween ink stamp right on the top. On top, or below that, we have a black reverse piece, it looks like, which is that sort of greenish shade. And the reverse pieces, we get those random dye marks that I really like. We also have the random dye marks on the ultraviolet reverse, which are a little bit more purple in color, and I think those are great. On the right here, this is a color 8 marbled piece to match the exterior of the wallet. I think that's really awesome with more of the black reverse underneath that. Take a look at the center. There's something really special about this piece in the center. This is a color 8 reverse piece, but the backside of it is this vivid purple. And I'm really happy with how that turned out. I think it's sort of an accident how this happened, but I'm glad that this purple in the center sort of calls out to the purple on the ultraviolet reverse on the left. So this is a stunning Fat Herbie here. And we have a couple more stunners. Here we have a tumbled Verdigris Fat Herbie. And this is one of those new versions of the shell Cordovan from Horween. It's an experiment that Skip Horween has been doing where he's tumbling up the shell Cordovan. And what I like about it is a couple different things. You can see on the outside here, it's got a nice subtle sheen, but not nearly the amount that a regular piece of polished shell Cordovan has, where a regular piece of Cordovan is very much a mirror-like shine. This one is a more subtle matte finish. I like that a lot. And I also like the random pebbling on here. The inside, I think, is a little bit more interesting on this piece on the left, where we get a little bit more of that variation. I like that very much. And the Fat Herbie that Skip Horween wore was in this same color. And if you go back a few months, maybe I'll try to dig it up here, but the way that his wallet has worn in is incredible. We see the same patina effect that we see on most of the shells. That sort of translates to these tumbled shells as well, where the color becomes darker. It's a little bit more deep in color, but also the luster has developed very dramatically on his wallet the more he's worn it. So it starts off a little bit dull, but it gets bright and shiny just the more it gets worn. Take a look at the inside again here. I love this look of all these random pebble patterns, and it sort of reminds me of like the Statue of Liberty, something, how it's worn in and aged with that copper over time. Just a really beautiful piece of tumbled shell here. I have one more tumbled Verdigris piece, and this is a Bugs Moran in that same leather as the Fat Herbie we saw a second ago. Really interesting sort of like aged copper look, that sort of green color a penny would turn into when you just had it sit out maybe a little too long and getting exposed to the elements. That's sort of the color that I see here. And this is one of the colors that does translate pretty well over the photos and videos I do. The one thing that doesn't translate is that luster. So it is a subtle sheen, but nowhere near like a regular piece of shell. Here's a regular shell, and you might be able to see that brightness sort of immediately. Where on the tumbled shells and the raw shells, they're much more of like a matte finish, and that's cool. I like the transformation that happens going from dull to bright. It's totally compelling to me. Take a look at the inside of this Bugs Moran. We're able to sneak in a little bit of a Horween ink stamp in the center, and more of the tumbled Verdigris on the left and right. Now here is a really cool version of our Tony the Ant. This is what we call the tall Tony. I've actually been messaging a couple people today from Europe that have been asking about this wallet. Some of the Tony the Ant wearers that are not from the United States find the normal Tony the Ant to be a little annoying, because on the normal Tony, this slot in the back here, we sort of cut down here like we do on the Fat Herbie. There's like a little notch out, and non-US dollars stick out just a tiny bit above that notch. So what we did is we made this version of the Tony the Ant called the Tall Tony, where we have that bill slot in the exterior fully covered by this huge piece of shell Cordovan. And that's what we're calling the Tall Tony. I actually really like the look of this as well, although the original idea for the Tony the Ant was to take the aesthetic from the Fat Herbie and sort of shrink it down. So I like this vibe on the outside here with that little bill slot notch out. I think that looks cool. So we don't get that, but I also like the way that this Tall Tony looks. Just a very clean piece of leather on the outside there with no stitching across the top. I think makes it, give it a little bit something different there. And on top of that, take a look at this whiskey shell Cordovan. This piece on the outside here is some of the nicest shell that I've ever seen. Really great golden color, but the smoothness and the luster in this shell is as good as it gets. That's a really great piece of whiskey shell on the outside of this. Wait till you get a look at the inside here. We got something, basically something of everything. On the left, this is ultraviolet shell Cordovan on top of what looks like a garnet shell. I might have called it color 4 in the video earlier. And that's because the garnet shell sort of changes directionally pretty dramatically. And from where I stand on these videos, sometimes it's hard for me to see the color about perfectly. Take a look at the right too. This looks like intense blue on the right for both those pieces. So this is a really cool color combination wallet. It's sort of like a nice gradient of color, ranging from that ultraviolet to the blue on the right, but the whiskey shell on the outside is really neat. Take a look at this too. We were able to hide a couple ink stamps in the center, which I think just sets it over the top, making this Tony the Ant, the tall Tony, a little bit more special. And I know most people are into these Horween leather goods because of patina. People like to experience the way that the leather ages, and that's the reason I started carrying leather in my pocket, 15 years ago. Started working at the tannery. I just love to see how this stuff would just change over time. So this is a Tony the Ant that we had sent back to us, and I don't know how long this was worn for, but there was a stitch that we were able to fix, and we're going to send it back to the customer today. But I wanted to show you how nicely this leather has worn in. This is a Tony the Ant in garnet shell Cordovan, and take a look at how deep that color has developed. It's almost like a more vibrant color 8 right now. I think that's a really great piece. It almost looks like color 4 at some angles as well. A little bit more of that orangey caramel to it. But man, that is really cool. I haven't touched, all we did was fix the stitching on this. And there was just one little pop thread. But we haven't polished this up at all. So this seems to be how the customer has worn this. And the luster and color depth that have accumulated on this wallet is just really, really great. Take a look at the inside too. I think this is what really set it over the top for me. I was really happy with this too. It's all scuffed up, and I love how it's worn in. Like, it really looks used. It looks sort of like ancient at this point. And I like that a lot. These scuffs and scratches can be filled in pretty easily. And if you look at the video I did polishing my Viberg boots, you might even be able to just take a little bit of water and brush the crap out of this. I think that should smooth this down. And to really fill in these scuffs and scratches, you can take a neutral colored shoe polish. I like the Sapphire Cordovan cream to fill in those little scuffs and scratches. But I don't know if I would even mess with this one. I think this looks really, really great. I thought I would show it to you today because a lot of people ask me to show them how the wallets wear in. And I only have so many pockets, so I can't carry that many wallets. If you're looking at a garnet shell Cordovan, I just, after seeing this one, I just can't suggest the garnet enough. And I have a quick 65-day update on my Johnny the Fox. This is a 100% English tan Dublin. And every time I pull this out, it's kind of rare to go to a store these days. But for some reason, this wallet has been getting more attention than most of the wallets that I've worn. People seem to really like the look of this English tan Dublin. And I'm really happy with it. In fact, I'm surprised with how happy I am with this. The brightness that has developed on the English tan Dublin, I was not expecting to be as nice as I'm experiencing. It's very much a glassy finish now. This looks like a piece of shiny wood almost in person. I think it's really neat. I'm enjoying the patina process on this a lot. The luster change in particular, I think, is the most striking part. The other thing that's really cool is how this leather is wrapping and just enveloping everything I put inside of it. So you can see how it's developed that little bit of curve on the bottom there for where my cards are on the inside. And I have a ton of cards sort of hidden underneath each of the card stacks. I probably should count this again. Let's see. So I have 15 cards in here right now, and it's laying a little bit flatter than I had thought it would. It's very nice, and I have a bunch of bills as well. But the Johnny the Fox is now my daily carry, and for a bunch of years I was using the Fat Herbie every day. Pretty happy with this Fox right now. We do have a few left of these in stock. This seems to be a really popular style right now. We're shipping out a couple today in the 100% English tan Dublin. I have some plans on doing a 100% natural chromic saw that you can look forward to. I think that's going to be really cool. I don't think we've ever done that before. So thanks for checking out the video today. If there's anything in here that you think is a stunner, let me know that stands out. For some reason, the two wallets I looked at first, when I saw these after they were made, it's sort of like brother sister here or something, or just two brothers. The way that these two work together, I think these together are my stunner of the day. And actually, it's interesting because these are for two separate customers. So we had two people pick relatively similar inverted wallets, and I'm really excited for you guys to have these. So thanks so much for your support, and until next time, I hope you have a good one.